So we're working on strategies that'll help you deal effectively with conflict. We covered 3 in the last lecture, and I want to talk about a big one in this lecture, which is dealing with feelings. Most conflict, especially when stakes are high, involve feelings. For example, an employee hasn't had a raise in a number of years and wants to talk to her boss. A father and daughter are trying to negotiate how much money to spend on her upcoming wedding. A couple are talking about whether or not to have another child. You're having a hard time working with another department. We often think, particularly in the workplace, that feelings should not be involved, and yet the reality is they are involved. Ignoring feelings when they're involved in conflict will likely backfire for 3 reasons. Number 1, they're likely to leak into the conversation through your tone of voice, facial expression, body language. They may even be expressed through sarcasm, aggression, detachment, impatience, defensive behavior. Research tells us that most people are good at reading when someone isn't dealing with their emotions. A second reason that ignoring feelings will backfire is that it makes it difficult for us to listen and open up to another's point of view. Our strong or repressed emotions prevent us from listening because we're so caught up in our own story. And here's a third, and perhaps the most important reason for being aware of and dealing with feelings during conflict. The negative feelings that you experience during conflict come from unfulfilled needs. Think of it like this: our feelings are a symptom of conflict, and your unfulfilled needs are the cause. For example, whenever you feel positive emotions like relaxed, happy, confident, you know that your underlying needs are being met. On the other hand, whenever you feel negative emotions like anger, anxiety, exhaustion, restlessness, embarrassment, you have needs that are not being met. By ignoring your feelings, you're also ignoring the very needs that give rise to the conflict in the first place. Your feelings serve you in that they're the cues to your unmet needs. For that reason, ignoring them is unwise. So how do you handle them? How do you deal with your feelings? Sometimes it's necessary and helpful to surface and process your feelings on your own before you go into dialogue. Pay attention to the feelings that a particular situation or conflict is bringing up in you. Put a label on your feelings: hurt, angry, fearful, disappointed, betrayed. It helps to even explore your feelings. Explore them without acting them out, by sitting with them, by writing about them, by talking about them with a neutral party. Don't judge them as good or bad, but as real, and accept that they're part of your inner experience. Recognizing and labeling them not only helps you understand them, but it also helps you understand their role and the impact that they're having on a given conflict. Then use your feelings to understand your deeper needs that are not currently being met. Whether you feel angry or anxious or gloomy or whatever, you can ask yourself what underlying need or what underlying desire is not being met. This awareness is enormously powerful in helping you have greater insight into yourself and your needs, the needs that you have that need to be met in order to resolve a conflict. Not only can you learn by paying attention to your own feelings, but you can also learn valuable information by becoming more attuned to the feelings of other people. You can use their expressions of emotion as windows into their deeper needs. For example, somebody says, "You think you have all the answers. I'm tired of you telling me what to do." Well, you can hear that negative message in one of 4 ways. Number 1, you can personalize the message and get down on yourself. I just need to shut my mouth. Why do I try to be so helpful in the first place? And that kind of response only leads to more guilt. It leads to shame, to depression. It's not a good option. Second option is you can defend yourself. And by the way, this is what most people do, by blaming other people and building their case against the other person. "No, you're wrong. I've been doing my best here to understand everybody's point of view. You have no idea what you're talking about." Well, that kind of response will only make other people more defensive and escalate the conflict. Third, you can use their comment to become more aware of your own feelings and needs. And then learn to express those feelings and needs. When you say that, I feel hurt and unappreciated because I would like a little bit of recognition that I've been working really hard to come up with some solutions. This is a healthier option because it shows ownership of your experience. It gets to a deeper level in the conversation. The fourth, and in fact, the alternative that I would recommend most of the time, is to use negative statements to better understand the other person's feelings and needs. So you can say something like, it sounds like you're feeling hurt because you're not being recognized for your preferences and the contribution that you've made. This is the best response when we're working through conflict because it acknowledges the feelings and even the need of the other person. Responding in this way diffuses tension and it turns a negative interaction into a positive. But the truth is that doing this, what I'm talking about, doesn't come naturally to most people. We often have to practice the skill of identifying the feelings and needs behind a message that somebody is communicating. And that's okay. Every disagreement is an opportunity to practice this kind of listening. Simply recognizing that people are expressing real feelings and needs is helpful. It means that you can sometimes slow down the process of communication and better get at real issues. Being aware of feelings helps you do that. It also helps to remember how your thoughts contribute to your feelings. So look at how you're talking to yourself. What thoughts are causing you to feel hurt or disappointed or anxious? Look at these thoughts and be willing to challenge them, to realize that they're a point of view, not the truth. Might there be some distortions, black and white thinking, catastrophizing, mental filtering, overgeneralizing that's going on in your thinking? How could you modify your thoughts in ways that would better serve you? Doing this emotion work on your own doesn't mean that you can't bring your feelings into a conversation. In fact, it's often helpful to do so as you're working through a conflict. Sometimes you'll decide to bring your feelings into the conversation. Other times you may decide that you've processed them and worked through them on your own, and you don't necessarily need to include them in the conversation, or at least talk about them explicitly in the conversation. You know, you can bring your feelings, however, if you do want to talk about them without being overly emotional. You're talking about how you feel as a way of advocating for yourself and educating another person about your point of view rather than simply venting. If how you feel is a real part of the problem, then it should be okay to express these feelings as part of the conversation. Here's an example. Husband's been complaining about his employment and his wife is encouraging him to look for a new job. So pretty often she's asking, do you have your resume out? Have you been taking steps to get a new job? Husband can use his wife's questions as a way to respond to her feelings and needs. He might say something like, seems like you're feeling nervous about my job situation, maybe because you need to feel reassurance from me that I'm looking in order for you to feel more secure. So he deals with his wife's feelings and need in a way that allows her to feel heard and understood. He may also need to deal with his own feelings. He doesn't do so by saying, it makes me angry that you just keep harping on me about this, back off, which would only alienate his wife and lead to more conflict. Instead, he says something like, hey, it's hard for me when you ask about how my job search is going. My initial reaction is anger because I feel like you don't trust me. And then I begin to feel like maybe I'm not doing as much as I should and I'm letting you down. This has been a hard process, and I'm discouraged at times that it's not going faster. But I recognize that it's a process that's going to take some time, and I need your encouragement and wonder if we can find a better way to talk about it that feels more supportive to me. We'll notice here that the husband shared a whole broad range of feelings, not just his anger. And by talking about all of his feelings, he hopes to shift the conversation in a way that works better for him and for his wife. One important thing about sharing feelings is to do so without judging and blaming. For example, you make me so mad is not a helpful way to begin a conversation, or you're insensitive, or using labels like you're undependable. These comments cause people to feel judged and blamed and will immediately put them on the defensive. Better to start with pure feelings. We often call them I messages. I felt hurt that I didn't hear from you when you were going to be late. I felt angry when I was called out publicly in our staff meetings. I feel disappointed that we can't arrive at agreement about this. These messages are not attacking and blaming messages. They're softer. They leave ownership on the speaker, and so it makes it easier to talk about the feelings. So what I'm saying is, don't be afraid of your feelings. They're real, they're part of the conflict, but by practicing the suggestions I'm giving, you're moving to a place in which you can make your feelings part of the conversation without simply venting or acting them out.